say
And
you
we're
made
back
my
on.
whole life.
Rock on. Yeah, I'm drinking my coffee, by golly.
I love coffee. Coffee is my favorite. Like I live for coffee. Troy, like I'm glad that you're here because we wanted you to come on and chit chat with us. Like obviously, let's like, you're a voice actor. You've been doing this a little bit longer than we've been doing it.
hmm
And you're in Nashville, correct?
I'm very close to Nashville. I'm
Okay.
north of Nashville, but yeah,
Yeah, so
close enough.
and you have a podcast called The VO Life. So you like to bring light and shine a little bit of light into the dark places and corners for voiceover people out there to learn a little bit more and
Yep.
connect people with different kinds of pieces of information, kind of like vocal health. And you had a podcast episode that I found very refreshing and totally connected with. And you and I connected through automotive
Yep.
and through a friend of mine that I met at VO Atlanta, so
hmm
Charles. And I just love what you're doing with your podcast, and that's why I have you on here because you really literally put words to what we've all been kind of talking about, like the
hmm
vibes of trying to figure out and dive in and dig into like what the hell is going on, because I think all of us are
hmm
in our second and third years of running our VO business full-time, part-time, and
Right.
training
Right.
before that. And things are not exactly the way that we were anticipating. And of course, expectations always need to be a little bit,
Yeah. It's
adjust
changed.
adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
let's
changed.
talk
It's
about
changed
that.
just within the years that we've learned
Yeah.
stuff
Yes.
to like really
Yes.
started getting into it.
And
It's crazy how fast it's gone.
got into a semi discussion with someone yesterday about this who they rely, I'm going to say 90% on Fiverr.
Okay.
And if they can make a living on Fiverr, hooray for them. But
Right.
what they need to understand is new people cannot make a living on Fiverr. Not
Mhm.
likely, because some things have changed. When I got in 2020, there were 600 new voice actors on Fiverr under the new,
Yeah.
heading of voice actors. You go in there now, there's 7,000, not 4 or 500. So there is a ton of people in that algorithm. And, if you, they still are selling the thing of, yeah, get on there and I'll teach you how to set up your profile and I'll coach you and I'll help you and I'll teach you and you can do this. Maybe you might get lucky and catch a break, but I see more people than not being on Fiverr for 3 months or 6 months and still they don't have their first order.
Mhm.
And when I was on there, when I started in 2020 in September, I had the first week I had 6 orders the first week. And
Wow.
then it just took off from there. And after I hit level 2, I stayed really, really busy. And then I hit top rated seller, and you might as well put a tourniquet on it and turned it off. It stopped.
That's wild.
And I think a lot of it is because it was during that time people were still piling in there, and it screws up the algorithm. And Fiverr doesn't know how to fix all that. They don't care. They got a certain number of people that make a lot of money for them, and they're happy. They don't care. So they just let us keep piling profiles and gigs and trying to get business, and they don't care. So that's changed. And then I think the thing of that flood of people not only is just Fiverr, they're everywhere. They're voices.com, they're voice 123. They don't know what they're doing. They're clogging up the algorithms on there as well. And the searches, they're auditioning for stuff they shouldn't be auditioning for. They're giving out cheap prices. And is it screwing up the whole VO market? Nah, probably not, but it's screwing it up for a lot of people trying to get started or who have just gotten started.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of pollution going on, and it may work its way out this year and into early next year. But if you're doing the right things, you don't have to worry about it. If you're are coaching and training and trying to do rates correctly, and you're hanging in there, and it's a passion for you, you're going to come out of this okay. And you're going to see all this other go away. And I would give anything if all these sites would go, if you haven't booked a job in a year, we're going to put you in this algorithm. And if you haven't done this in a year, we're going to put you over here.
Yeah.
And let the people that are honestly out there trying to make a living or trying to make their way rise to the top. But it's going to take a while. It's just going to take a while. There's so many people in the mix right now. Thousands.
And not to mention the fact that there are already established voice actors that have been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years that you're already competing against. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of them don't come out and say they're on Voice 123 and voices.com. And then I also think there's the premise of there are a lot of people who look very successful. They look like they're making a lot of money, but they're probably not.
Yeah.
They're probably making, $20,000-$30,000 a year full time. And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But, I hate that some people are being misleading about it, and I hope they're not. But I run into it now and then, and some people open up and say, yeah, I only made this much my first year, my second year, my third year. And that's good. We should hear that truth. But I think there are some that are trying to put on a front that they're doing more, or maybe they don't even have to make much at this, and they're going to all the conferences and they're doing this and they're doing that. And we all sit home going, geez, I wish I could make more so I could go to these conferences.
Right.
But they're not. They may be going on family money or whatever. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Some people might take that wrong. It's great if you can do that, and it's a hobby, and you're able to do this, and you're still good at it, and you're still doing industry rates, but you don't have to make a ton of money. That's great. I mean, if my wife made 200 grand, I wouldn't worry half as much either, but
Yeah, exactly.
doesn't work that way for my house.
I know I'm having major
Yes.
FOMO right now with the one voice. I went to Voiceover Atlanta because I was in a place where my husband's like, this is going into your second year of starting your full-time voiceover business. I kind of am lucky that I was able to have a husband that he's the CFO, I'm the CEO, and it's my turn to sort of get things going. And he's given me a little bit of time to be able to build this into something more, a full-time gig. And
Right.
so he's like, just go for it. Just go for it. Do what you got to do. And I went. It was my first time, and it was great. It was a lot. It's probably one of the biggest conferences available.
Right.
And I loved it. It was a great time. But like you said, you have to be able to budget for it, and you have to be able to know what
Yeah,
you're
it's
getting yourself
tough.
into. Yeah.
It's
There's
tough.
a lot of people. But interesting that you said something about Fiverr, because I have a girlfriend of mine who is in Seattle, and she started off on Fiverr just to get herself going, like just to get started while she was training, to sort of cut her chops in
Sure.
voiceover and gain some traction there. And she's done really, really well. And she
Mhm.
shies away from talking about it because people kind of poo-poo Fiverr. And she's like, you should give it a try. So I gave it a try, but it was a couple years later. And I have an alias name. It's not that much of an alias name. You pretty much would be able to find me if you looked for me. But like I had a couple gigs on there, and then nothing. Like I can't get out of even the base. Like I can't even get to I'm like, what's wrong with me? And really, there's nothing wrong with me. It's the algorithm and the fact that it's
You're
just
just buried. You're
Right.
buried. I
Right.
mean, if it weren't for a niche, I would get nothing on there. I mean, and I don't get that much a month. It's a very small part of my business. And I go back 2 years ago, it was half or more, or 70% some months.
Yeah.
Now it's 5%, 10%, maybe, depending on the orders I get. And before, the orders were $25, $20, $15, $30. Well, now they're $200, $300, $350. You raise the price and get it up to what you're worth, and you're not going to get all the buyers. And then Fiverr comes out with this thing a couple of months ago. They're emailing people, bumping them up to pro, whereas before you had to apply for pro services, you had to be approved, you had to make all your gigs under that heading pro gigs. It had to be a minimum $100 price tag. Well, now they're saying, well, you don't have to do all your gigs. You can just do one, and you can have 5 others that are under $100.
Yeah.
And they handpicked who they sent that to. They didn't open it to everybody. So
Right.
there's so much crap that goes on with that, and
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as I set it and forget it. And if I get work that comes from there now, great. It's a bonus,
Yeah.
pretty much. But it's a
Well,
harder way to start than it was 3 years ago.
yeah. And there's also something to be said about, the other pay to plays,
Mhm.
you don't pay to play on Fiverr, but like Voices
Right.
123 and Voices, like I noticed, there was a big difference between voices.com where I started, a couple years ago, or a couple years ago, versus like where things ended up being in January of this year. I was like, what
Right.
is happening? And I went to Voiceover Atlanta, and they're like, oh, it's because they just had this big sale for $99, and
Yep.
and anybody that wasn't on there that might have been someplace else, whether it was
Yeah.
Fiverr or
Why
Voices
not
123.
get on for $99?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of like 30 to 40 auditions I'm going up against, and you have to play the whole percentage game.
Yeah.
But like there was like 80 to 100 auditions already, even in like some of my higher level percentages. So
Right.
that was a little bit frustrating. And then I kind of stopped really auditioning a little bit there because then the whole AI thing happened. Everyone got scared. Now I didn't jump ship. I stayed because I figured I'd weather the storm and see what happens. And things have sort of
Mhm.
evened out a little bit, so
It
that's
does.
good. Yeah.
It does. I think the trick on both of those platforms, if you can do it, is to be voices.com's a little different because jobs will drop all during the day. It doesn't matter, there's no level. They still have, those people that used to be platinum or whatever they were, or top or whatever. Now there's nothing. They give you ratings by if you've done over 100 jobs or under 100 jobs. So they've stopped some of that. But the thing is, you've got to be so quick, like you said. So your options are get up at 5:36 in the morning and try to see if there's something there, and then say, well, crap, there's only 2 or 3 things to audition for. And then next thing you know, it's 8:30 and you're like dying to go back to bed. And what am I going to do now? But Voice 123 works differently. It is set up on tiers. So if you're platinum, or if you're in the $888 thing, or in the $300 thing, you're going to see auditions at a different time of day. So the 888 level is probably the most cost efficient level, because you're going to see all the stuff the platinum people are seeing sometimes the same time they see it if you're ranked up in the top 40 or 10%. But you may not see them until 4 to 6 hours later, which a lot of times will be in the middle of the night, 12 o'clock or 4 in the morning. So you got to get up at 6 o'clock, and you got to hit those early to get in. And it's either being dedicated to doing that or spending the money on the platinum thing. And I don't know that it's worth it. But,
Yeah.
and the competition, my gosh, you're talking about, there's a lot of people making a lot of money on Voice 123. You look at your coaches that you coach with are on 123. Brad Highland,
Right.
Karen Gilfrey's on there. She's not on there as much as she used to be, but I noticed on her profile it always says in the last 24 hours she's been on there. So she's keeping up. And those people, they're hard to beat, and it's hard to win those jobs, and it's hard to justify, well, I'm going to do platinum and spend $3,000, just to get the auditions faster. Or am I going to invest in coaching and get better at the auditions? And even if I come in the second group of 20 or 25, I'm good enough, that they're going to shortlist me and hopefully hire me. So it's hard.
It
It's
is
just
hard,
hard.
and
Yeah.
that was the one thing that you caught my attention in your episode, where you talked about how you're not a voiceover, you're a voice actor, and you really
Yes.
these days, especially with AI, can we talk a little bit about that? Like, how you sort of
Yeah.
unpack that all, like, where you really it's not just about training and having a booth, like, let's talk about all that, like,
Mhm.
you have to really continue training, like, I continue training, we all continue training, and
Yes.
so important,
Yeah. Yeah. And I just bought Tina Marasco's videos.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did, and
Let me know about that.
fantastic, and another reminder of, you have to build your own system. And I started with Mike Hathcote a long time ago. Mike was in Bill DeWeese's group. That was kind of how I got started in VO, was through that
Yep,
entry. Um, from there, I went to Kim Handysides, who was more of an acting, teaching you acting techniques.
okay.
I went to Linda Bruno and JJ Wilson, the VO gurus. Big help to me because they had 30 years in the industry. They taught me a lot about the business side and a lot about the performance side. And then I went to Mark Ryder, and I still coach with Mark occasionally, and Brad Highland. And it became, the real authentic thing is the big deal. We all have that, but we get in front of the mic and we forget, and we can't do it. Why can't we do it? Why is it so hard? Well, I'll do a lead in. Hey, Bill, let me tell you about this. That doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
You can do that all day long. It will not change your read and make it authentic. But if you'll go back and build a story behind the script and come out of that story into that script and connect to that script, then you have become authentic. And that's where it gets real, and that's where it gets hard. And you have to develop your technique from these coaches, how you're going to do it. Brad's going to teach you this way. Mary Lynn Wisner's going to teach you this way. Ryder's going to teach you this way. writers saying F the specs, don't read the specs. Tina Marasco is saying absolutely read the specs. You
I
need to
know.
connect to the specs. And you're now you're all
like,
in your head going, what do
yeah.
I do? Who do I
Mhm.
listen to?
Yeah.
Listen to you and your heart, and you figure out your own way, and you will start booking the work.
Yeah.
And it's really as simple as that, but it's as difficult as that. But you have to get your own method. So when you look at a copy, you run it through in your head as you're reading through it. You build a backstory. You pick a card. That's the way I do it. I call it picking a card. Some people say picking a club out of the golf bag. You commit to that club or that card, and you play that card, and you go on.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the trick. It's as hard as it is easy, and that's what makes it really, really hard.
And I think a lot of the times, like in these last, like, what, 4 to 5 years, I think people think like, oh, I come from radio, or I've been on stage, or I'm an actor. Like, I can easily transition to being a voice actor. It's super easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And, you know,
Well, we did a
right?
workshop. I did a workshop this week, and I had Jake Sanders help me. Jake was a former stage actor. He's got all kind of formal training. He's on the other podcast I do called It's Another VO Podcast, and we named it that because I know people are sick to death of VO podcast. But there are three of us on there, and we all three got into this differently, have a different opinion, and we don't get on there and argue, but we get on there and share, about rates, and this is my opinion, how I do it, and this is how Jake does it, and how Alden does it. And we said none of these are right or wrong. Pick what you want to do. It's your business. And we kind of push it that way. But in that workshop, I had 4 former radio people, and they were all, I cannot get to a conversational read. I'm coming to this workshop. I want to know how to do it. They have in their mind they have to change their voice. You don't change your voice. It's not your voice. It's the way you say the stuff and the way you approach it. If you come into it going, introducing this, and here we go, and blah, 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 and that's the way you're trained. But if you back them down and say 50% quieter, 50% slower, and they're going, I can't go that slow. Yes, you can. And by the time the workshop's over, they're actually doing a conversational read in their own voice, their radio voice. They have beautiful voices. Don't lose that. That's what people are drawn to, that voice. It's the way you use the voice. And if you want to come at it like a salesman or a radio announcer, yeah, you're right. Every time you audition, they're going to go pass, pass, pass. But if you come into that with some feel and authenticity with a beautiful voice, they're going to love it.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so seen, to be honest. Because, just thinking about it, and like when I first started my voiceover journey, and, you would get the specs and somebody would say, oh, they want a mature woman. And I automatically want to change my voice because that's not the way my voice sounds. And I would never get picked for those. But I noticed the minute I started just doing my own voice and reading it the way I would just read something I would normally read, I was getting booked.
Yeah.
So it's kind of dumbfounding, to be honest. Like
It
you get all
is.
this training to try and adjust your voice and be like this little magician with your vocal box. But then in essence, it's just like, no, they want you. They just want your natural voice.
They do.
Absolutely.
They do. They want it totally natural. They, I run into it all the time as, God, we really love your voice, but we just can't do the accent. So I started doing dialect training, and I'm still working on that. I coach with Tom Antonellis twice a month, and we identify words that I need to start planting in my head to change. And you can't do it all at once. This is going to take 4 to 6 months probably, because I can't remember all of those words as I read through a script. The giveaways are like GET. You guys say get. I want to go get it. Well, I don't. I say get.
Yeah.
I want to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get her done. We don't say get her done. It's get her done.
Yeah.
And I'm having to learn to change those behaviors. And over time, it'll work. And I'll be able to turn that on and off, because I'll know that's Jen Am, and I can't say those words that way. I have to say them this way. But it's going to take time. So I'm hoping that'll expand my market, my reach. But my fear when I first started talking to Tom was, I don't want to lose authenticity. He said, why would you? You won't lose it, because I want you to subconsciously just say a few words differently. just a few. You don't have to change what you're doing. You just have to get rid of these red flags that pop up, maybe 3 words in a 75 word copy.
Right.
And he's right. It's usually only a handful of words. And luckily, I'm not Appalachian or I'm not so far gone I can't work on it. But
Right.
it's
But I
still
think
hard.
I do believe all voiceover actors would benefit from doing dialect stuff because
Yeah.
you do grow up in different areas and you pick up certain words that just don't really connect across a nationwide versus just like a little, your little southern part or wherever you're from. So I think everybody would totally benefit from dialect coaching.
Yeah, and you're not always doing stuff that's happening in your area.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Right.
Totally. Like I for example, I just did a Vancouver like neighborhood situation where they're trying to bring people move into the Vancouver neighborhood, but it's Canadian. So
it's all
like,
a boot to hoose.
Yeah, exactly. But I did my American accent, obviously, and they were happy with it. But like in my head, I'm like, should I kind of sound a little should I try to go for that accent? But no, I totally did my own. Yeah. But it might have benefited me if I knew how to kind of maybe slide a little bit of a a little Canadian sound in there. It might have benefited a little more for the client.
I think I auditioned for that. Was that on
really?
Voices? Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, this was a repeat client.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I did something for them a while ago.
Well, Troy, I want to talk about expectations because you've been in this a little bit longer than we have full time. And obviously you've been very successful and you're growing your business and you're coaching and you're podcasting. Like for us and other people that are maybe just getting into it or starting to get into it or are in it, like let's set like some expectations about, the training and, equipment. And like you said, you touched on the coaching and the continued coaching. But I mean, I feel like, when you get going in voiceover, even Lloyd and I and all of us, we've done a lot of training. I think Lloyd and I are like the most, I think we've done the most so far, but I think we've been the gung ho at the training situation. But
Lloyd's all looking at his empty wallet.
Yeah, me too.
Wallet.
I know, credit card.
Sold that too.
But I feel like your expectation is you get your demo, your commercial demo, and you do all the work and pay all the money, and that you're just going to start booking. And that's just not what happened. Gabby and I started at the same time, our commercial demo, and it took us quite a few months before we booked our first booking on Voices for me and 123 for you, Voices 123 for you, and still even now I've been doing this for a little bit, and it's not like I'm booking consistently or regularly. And it's hard. I just booked 2 live direct new clients in one day. That was like a first. And that just happened recently. And I've been doing this for a little bit, a couple years. Oh, yeah, a couple years now, full time. And it's hard, and it's hard. And you get down on yourself a little bit. Don't you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a difference in starting now and starting when most of us did a couple, 3 years ago and whichever, that the belief then was jump on Upwork and Fiverr, get some cheap work. That'll help pay your expenses, blah, 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 blah. And then build as you go and, use an alias if you can and whatever. That, and can you still do that? Yeah, you probably can. I don't think you can book the work like you used to.
Nope.
The first 6 months, I started in officially, I guess, in July on Upwork, July 2020. I started in Fiverr in September. That first 6 months, I think I actually made about $5,000, which is a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
But from January to December that next year, I made like $26,000. Wow. And I was blown away. I thought, this is great. I'll be able to go full time and I can triple this easily full time, which, that didn't exactly happen. But I think what people think is, oh, I got a good voice. I can read. I got this background, that background. I can do this. It's easy. It's posted all over freaking Facebook and everywhere. You can do this because people want your money to show you how to do this. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. My belief is, you've got to have a place to do it. You got to have a room, you got to have a closet, whatever. You got to go get some minimal equipment to do it and then go get training. And people, well, I can't afford training. Then do something else. If you can't afford any training, I don't want a doctor working on me that hasn't been to medical school.
Right.
I don't want somebody to do my voiceovers that is not trained. I don't want a guy landscaping my yard that just said, hey, I've got a lawnmower and a hoe. I can dig up your bushes. Yeah, but do you have a horticulture degree? Do you understand what needs to be planted in the shade and the sun and this and that? And we're supposed to learn all of this. You need to learn how to deliver the different reads. You got to figure out what niche you're going into. I know people that have been in this 3 years and are just now learning what path they need to go. And that's what it takes. It takes 3 to 5 years to figure out where you're going with all this, because you got to try it all and see. Is it commercial? Is it audiobooks? For me, hell no, it ain't audiobooks.
Hell no, over here too.
No.
Never.
That's all you, Lloyd.
Is it explainers? Is it e-learning? Is it corporate narration? Is it medical narration? Is it character stuff, video games, whatever? And I've narrowed it down to about 3 things and a couple things that I pick up now and then that I need to be smart about and market toward. And that's the next thing. Then you got to start direct marketing. Everybody pushes this. Do you need to go buy a $2,000 program to direct market? No. Marketing is marketing. Go buy a $20 book at the bookstore and it'll tell you how to market. It's not that hard. The hard part is digging up all the leads and emailing them every couple of weeks, and then eliminating the ones that, opt out, and making sure you keep your list updated, and making sure that you go back and revisit the warm leads and the cold leads and how to do all that. It takes a ton of effort. But the bottom line is 3 to 5 years of hard work just to get going. And then you know where you're going and what direction it's going to take you in, and you focus on marketing in those directions. So whereas people going to jump in, or they're going to be the unicorns that make a lot of money in a year or two, sure, there's going to be a couple of people. I watched that back in 2020 when some people got into this the same time I did, and we were all in those same Fiverr groups and those a VO's journey, and we're in there learning from Anthony Pica and thinking he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and because he's making all this money, and look at how he's doing it. And then all of a sudden you grow up and realize, no, I want to be a big boy VO. I don't want to do that. I want to really do the real stuff. And it takes a big investment and a lot of time. And for people that want to get into it and say they want it handed to them, and I'm amazed in these groups how you'll see somebody asking the dumbest of the dumb questions. And I'm not beating them up for asking those questions, but you should have researched a whole lot more if you're asking a question like, oh my gosh, I just got my first order. How do I deliver it? What do you mean, how do you deliver it?
Yeah.
How did you even get an order if you don't know how to deliver it? Learn everything first and then hang your shingle and go after it. You can practice, associate, you can go to cheap workshops, workouts, and I don't individually coach. I do the workouts because I want to encourage people to do these things and do it cheaply so they can learn the business. I don't think I'm ready to coach. I haven't developed my own system fully yet. When I do, then I'll be ready to share that and teach people. But the workshops are more to say, get over the fear, get in front of people, learn to read, learn to take feedback. Can you adjust when we give you the feedback? Can you make the change? Can you, totally turn the read around? And, there've been people in some of these workshops that I've emailed them later and say, hey, you've really got to take direction better. You've really got to not get upset or mad or frustrated. You got to let it roll off your back. And you'd be surprised that some people get defensive and they're like, well, what do you mean you want me to do this? I thought I did this and I did that, and I don't understand what you're asking. You can't do that in a live directed session. And those workouts, help teach you and train you in all that stuff. But bottom line, 3 to 5 years, be prepared to spend $10,000 to $15,000 over that 3 to 5 years. If you want to build a business.
Only 3 to 5?
If you want to build a business. Yeah. Now, if you want to get in and have a hobby and do it part-time, I'm all for that. There's times I wish I had kept my other job. I could have picked up an extra 25 grand a year. I made really good money where I was before. I knew I was not going to make that money here for a while, but I was burnt out and sick of what I was doing. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's
Definitely.
important too, like when people, if they do have a full-time job and they want to get into this, like you said, start off slow, start training, get your space treated, start investing in taking classes or listening to podcasts. There's so many podcasts. You've mentioned like quite a
Oh
YouTube.
gosh,
few.
yeah.
There's so many
Yeah.
YouTube.
resources. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
yeah.
let your coach tell you when you're ready.
Yes.
That is
Definitely.
the thing I
Yes.
find with so many people, they go to, I'm not going to name any certain schools, but
Yeah.
they'll go to this school and in 6 weeks they got a demo and they think they're ready to work. No, you're not.
Yeah.
There's no
Mhm.
way you're ready. And the test is always this. And I've had this happen. And I don't remember the lady's name. She started sending me these people and say they want to get a demo made and I've been coaching them and I want you to help them. I'm like, I don't know how she got my name. So the first guy sent me his stuff and he's sitting at his kitchen table with a Yeti. There's no doubt. It's that much
Wow.
echo, that much
Yeah.
reverb. The reads are terrible. So I
Wow.
sent back and I said, "Hey, I can't work with this. It's
Mhm.
the noise floor is too high, this and this and this." I emailed her, don't send that kind of stuff. I can't do that. I can't put my name to that.
Yeah.
And there are so many people doing that kind of stuff. So, get
Yeah.
with a viable coach, a trusted coach. Make sure that coach is also working in the business. Don't get with somebody that's been out of it 10 years because they don't know today's trends.
Yeah.
They hear it and they
Mhm.
see it. Well, yeah, I can teach you conversational and they are as announcery as anybody is, when they're trying to teach you. So be careful with that.
Yeah.
But be sure they're connected to the business and they're working and they know what they're talking about. And then when they tell you, man, you're ready, you need to make a demo.
Yeah.
You're ready.
Yeah.
And then the test is, can that person give me good raw audio for a 30-second script? And I send it to them and I say, I need this back in 15 minutes. And if
Oh,
they can get it back to me in 15 minutes and it sounds good and it's clean and they send me 2 very distinct takes, they're ready. They're
Yeah.
100% ready. But until you can do that and do it fast,
yeah.
they're not ready.
It's interesting that you say
Yeah.
that because it's like, it's even with all the training that I've done, you still get into it and you're like, ABCs. I got to give 3 different reads. I got to give 2 different reads, and it's hard sometimes to get there, even if
It
you've
is.
trained and get out there and, with the training and the training and the doing, and
But my
yeah.
belief is what I was talking about earlier is that pick a card thing.
Yes.
So these
Mhm.
are not character voices. These are you in different situations. This is me. I've got on my nice little outdoor shirt and I'm at the outdoor store and I'm talking to somebody about a fishing rod, which I don't fish, but I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
All right. Or there's me in my t-shirt and jeans. I'm out at the barn. I'm working on a tractor and somebody walks up and, what are you doing to that tractor? That's a different voice. You're going to get a
Right.
whole totally different character from me. So I'm going to pull, outdoor Troy. I'm going to pull farmer Troy. I'm going to pull expert Troy.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull which one of those Troys needs to read this for the A take because it matches the spec. Now I'm going to read my B take and I'm going to pull that other card. And for me, most of the time, I go full blown Southern for the second one.
Yeah.
Because what if?
Right.
Yeah.
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 What if they hear that and
Right.
go, man, I like the way that sounds.
Mhm.
That would sell our product. That's homegrown. It's not what we asked for, but how many times do you hear a finished commercial that's not what they asked for?
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you have a
anyway,
built-in second take with your Southern accent. That's just not
you do.
fair.
But you guys can all
I
do the
know.
same thing with
Yeah.
a different tone, lowering your volume,
Yes.
becoming more expert sounding and more
Yes.
Mhm.
you go from I say really an authentic take is usually your first take and more of a announcer is your second take.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that will at least give you 2 different flips of the card anyway.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
find that interesting because, especially with some like a voice like mine where it doesn't sound I guess professional or experty to like right off the bat. I always feel like I need to do my expert voice, like, hi, this is Angela, like bring my expert voice for my first take and then go into my more natural,
It
Totally.
flow
depends
of
on
things.
the specs. If the
Yeah,
specs are calling for that, yeah, you definitely
sure.
want to flip them. But and you're saying, well, I don't sound like an expert. Sure, you can. You can just elongate some words. You
Yeah.
can make some things more enunciated. you know, in Gen Am, you know, a lot of the teachings are, you say, you know, I'm going to the store. I'm not going to the store. I'm going to the
Going to,
store.
Huh.
And if I'm doing more export, I'm going to the store. You know, I
Right.
may
Yeah,
want to do
yeah,
some
yeah.
little things like that and
Yeah.
just make every word count.
Right.
The hardest thing that I've had to learn with dropping some of mine is the INGs, because
Mm.
everything for us is in, you
In.
know, that's something to talk about. You know, that's
Yeah.
really something to talk about. But I have to say, well, that's really something to talk about. I have to
Yeah.
hit every
Mhm.
G, and you know,
Good point.
those little things give me away. So I
Yeah.
have to really be conscious of it in take one. And take two, they're going to get full blown Tennessee, whatever.
Hey.
Right.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
You mentioned Upwork, and I feel like that was where I got scammed. I tried Upwork as well, and yeah, remember that we had that conversation, Angela.
Scams. Let's go
That
there.
was like another
Yeah,
episode.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so I
Almost.
get I get a little bit nervous about going that route, you know, but like I think I'm spread across the board on a lot of different places, direct and pay to play and other,
Mhm.
you know, places. So what would you say? Like, do you think we should just be on a couple sites, or do you think, you know, diversifying where you're at, you know, and two, like regularly auditioning, right, and like setting goals like
Yeah.
give us some
Yeah.
expectations on that from where you're at.
Sure. I still believe in Upwork. Upwork has gotten kind of crappy the last 6 months. They've really changed. You know, you have to have these things called connects, and you have to use those connects to bid on a job. When I started there, everything was 2 connects, you know, sometimes 4, very seldom. So I could take 80 connects a month and bid on a lot of stuff. The first year I was on Upwork, I did over $20,000 on Upwork, hit
Yeah.
top rated seller. You know, I was really happy with it, but I had some mostly repeat buyers.
Right.
I still think Upwork is viable, but the thing on there is you set your filters when you're doing your searches. You only search through about 2 pages because everything else is probably already awarded. They just haven't closed it or whatever yet. And, you know, a lot of people poo poo on YouTube jobs. If you're new,
Oh.
you should do them. You should do a lot of them. This is a God's honest truth, and I haven't counted lately. I have done over 4,000 YouTube narrations
Wow.
since I started.
Wow.
Where did you
4,000.
find them? On Upwork or?
Upwork
Okay.
mostly,
Wow.
and
Interesting.
Fiverr. I started out on one on Upwork that was called Tech Dojo, and it was every couple days the top 10 new Amazon blah blah blahs, the top 10 new accessories for Tesla, the top 10 new shoes. You know, it was the dumbest crap.
I love that
But
because I love Tech Dojo, and now that you're saying it, I'm like, oh my God, that's him. I
so
can hear it.
I did that. I did a finance thing. I did a couple of electric car channels. Then it got into a Tesla channel. Then it got into a
Nice.
SpaceX channel.
Wow.
And it was
Very
just
cool.
channel after channel after channel. They're about 1,200 words. They would only pay $15-20 a pop. But you would do, I had one guy that was doing as many as 5 a day.
Wow, that
You know,
adds
so
up.
I would do 25, 30 a week, and you know, it adds up. You know, you're picking up two grand a month. And if you're struggling, you know, hey, that's coaching money, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's the other thing. You get really, really good at reading ahead.
Yeah.
I can tell everybody, please read for 15 minutes a day out loud and record yourself. They won't do it. But if you get YouTube jobs, you have to do it because you have to deliver those. And they're usually terrible, awful scripts. The English is awful because it's either AI done or done by somebody in Pakistan that doesn't really know English that well. So
Yeah.
you have to edit in your head on the fly. You don't have time to read through it and fix it. You
Yeah.
need to do it while you're reading it. And you will get so good at correcting sentences, correcting punctuation, at reading without having to stop. And then where you start out, it takes you 45 minutes to do a 1,200 word script. Next thing you know, you can do 4 of those in an hour.
Yeah.
You can read them, edit them, and send them out in an hour, 4 of them, because you make less mistakes. You get faster on your editing. You get better with your pronunciations and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I credit that for making me a lot better voiceover person, not actor, but a better at reading and reading ahead and doing documentary readings. And that led to, you know, I picked up an outdoor channel that I do called Out There TV, and I do episodes for them almost every week. And, they're 700-800 words, and where I was getting $15 for YouTube, I get $350 for this guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it pays off finally. It just
Yeah.
takes a while.
Yeah.
But do those things, those hard things on Upwork and Fiverr and wherever you can get them. Do those the first year. Take all that work you can get because it's practice.
Yes.
You don't have to advertise your name, or you don't tell anybody else you're doing it, or say, "Oh, I've got another YouTube channel." I didn't say anything. I just did that work in the background while I was trying to get better work.
Yeah.
So do that.
Yeah. I love
know
that.
what's-
I love that you said that. Sorry, go ahead, Lloyd.
Oh, I was going to say, so what's really interesting to me, and I kind of have said this in our WhatsApp. I booked an audiobook recently. And
Bless your heart.
I know, right? And he's still here.
It's my first audiobook, and yeah, me still being here, if I didn't die in my booth,
I know.
I've learned a lot of lessons I didn't want to learn this last week and a half, and I'm
Right.
happy I've learned them, but
Right.
the crazy thing is I always said my goal was to be doing voiceover full time by this week specifically.
Wow.
Now, I knew that I wasn't in a place to leave my job,
Mhm.
but you can work multiple full-time jobs, and that's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. I don't want to overwhelm myself, but I'm sitting there working on this audiobook, and it's like generally it's accepted. It's like an hour of reading per finished hour. For 1 hour of reading, you read 2 hours, edit 3 hours. I'm not using my fingers. Edit 3 hours, and then like an hour you go back for quality control. So like 6 hours per finished hour of an audiobook.
Wow.
It's 92,000 words, and it's like 10 and a half hours. So like above 60 hours of work on this book, right? And I'm sitting there, I keep hearing there's a conversation we've had before. It's like when people are like, how do you go full time? It's like, well, you have to treat it like a full-time job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very true.
And it's like, is it sustainable? I mean, there are things that I need to do to make it more sustainable, but like, if I'm not doing an audiobook, there's no reason I can't be finding more auditions, marketing,
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people kind of get into the mindset of, oh, I'm going to go on Voices and do all my auditions for the day and I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a great attitude.
No.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And I'll do on an average day 15 auditions. That's
Yeah.
average. I've had days I've done 27 or 40,
That's a lot. Wow.
a lot.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is why audition for things I know I'm not going to get? They're
Right.
not going to hire me for, cloud storage, narration, and some of that kind of stuff. So if it's not commercial, if it's not charactery, if it's not, if it doesn't
Southern
say in
bumpkin.
there Southern or Texas or Oklahoma,
Yeah.
I mean, I handpick. So, a couple of weeks ago was a great example on Voices .com. I booked Toby Keith's bar out in Oklahoma to do his TV commercials.
Oh, yeah.
I know
Easy-
exactly what
Easy
that
win.
was,
So
because I was like, do I audition for this?
Yeah,
I thought
and that,
about it.
when I looked at it, I thought, which voice? Because I have a couple of things that I'll use, and I thought, do they want the storyteller? What do they want? And I said, kind of listening to him, and when I hear him talk, I said, it's got to be deep, it's got to be gritty. So it's like, Toby Keith, I love this bar. That deep. You got to
Yeah.
go deep and gritty. And bang, I mean, immediately they sent back,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to hire you for this.
That's
Good for
awesome.
you.
Wow.
Very cool.
The second one was on there, and it didn't really, I don't remember how it read, but it was for Kyle Petty. He has a TV show called Dine and Drive or something, and I didn't know it's been on for 3 years. So they wanted a Waylon Jennings narrator type, like a Dukes of Hazzard parody. And I thought, Dukes of Hazzard parody, this is going to be some kind of guy doing a joke on people.
Right.
So I read it. I didn't know what it was. And then I get the call, the thing back on it. And it's, it's a national TV spot for
Wow.
$1,500 bucks,
Wow.
God.
Yeah. Awesome.
and you just don't know like that. So if I pick and choose and I book a couple things like that, well, for a week or so, I ain't worried if I book anything the next week, because that took care of things.
Right.
My target every month, I want to gross $6,000 a month. That's not a boatload of money. You take out some taxes and expenses. But if I do that, then I'm able to, hand my wife a nice big, here's your portion. And then here's the portion I keep over here that I'm saving for conferences and coaching and whatever. So if I'm hitting that $6,000, I'm doing great. In my mind, I'd love to make 6 figures, but that's year 5 and 6.
Yeah.
I'm only in year 3. I just finished year 3. So
Yeah.
I'm going into year 4. So I want to get close in year 4, but year 5 and 6 is the target.
Now, what I'm
So
hearing
as
is,
long as-
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. You're
No, I
fine.
was going to say, I feel like Lloyd was, before that, I'm just going to back up really quickly. I feel like you were saying that you did like, your audiobook was basically a full-time job for you while you're doing your full-time job. And so therefore you can do it if you set your mind to it. And then Troy, what I'm hearing from you too, is you're saying like, you got to know yourself and the different versions of who you are and how to show up with the different, not entirely different person, but the different versions of you and how you show up. And Angela, you show up differently with your party friends. Gabby, you show up differently when you're in Madrid, Spain. Like I show up differently when I'm with like my neighborhood friends, my kids, and Lloyd, you show up differently at school versus when you're, so it's like finding the different versions of you.
Yes, that's it. That's the key. That is the key. And name those versions and learn those versions. Do you guys follow Astoria Red on TikTok?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
So she just recently did a video about that, about how she becomes her character and how she does it. And people were questioning that. What do you mean a character? Is that, Bugs Bunny or what? No, you're not being some anime person. You're just being you in a different situation, but you have to be able to identify it and turn it on and off.
Yeah. Right.
It's improv, it's actually just another leg of improv that I went through Scott Parkins back during COVID. He had an online thing and I got lucky enough to get in out of 6 people. And for him to show you how to immediately change, he'd put you in a situation. You're riding in an elevator with this lady and you're this and you're this. And then he'd go, okay, now you're a Texas Ranger.
Yes.
And you're like, what? And now you're a Delta airline pilot. And and that totally changes how you talk.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do when you read these scripts are stories. And even though they're 30 seconds long, it's a story. Somebody has poured their heart into that 30 seconds to tell a story. You have to figure out how you can tell that story and touch who wrote it and touch who's going to listen to it and how you're going to build a backstory to come into that story. So you can connect. And if you don't connect, you're screwed.
Yes.
You can't read it. You have to be it. You're not pretending to be somebody in there. You are that person. You have to get there.
And knowing where to pick and choose what will work for your voice and the different versions of you is, I was doing them all.
There's always acts. There's always 2 to 3 acts. Find where it changes. You may even change your card in there. You may read the first third as casual shorts me, and you may read the middle as business attire me, and I may come back to the end as casual shorts. It just depends, on how it changes moods. And then you also have to find in there what is the moment, what is the writer repeating in there? What words repeating? Is it like trust? Is it's trust is in here 6 times, or it could be anything. Watch for those key indicators and really hone in on them and just be a part of it. Like you said, pull that authentic you of whatever it is and dive in.
And I think like the biggest thing here is when you said 3 to 5 years, I feel like,
that's good to hear. Honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
right?
we all have,
we got a little time. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we all
most
have different
businesses
things
fail
going
before
on.
5 years. So if you make it past 5.
That's a very excellent point, Lloyd, and that is very true. And I think people aren't willing to put the time and investment in, and they're going to fall out. Paul Smith, who is a great marketing teacher, I like Paul. I like his methods. Have I bought his system? I wish I could. I can't find it within me that I'm going to get more out of something like that than I already know. But the thing is, I trust and believe in him. I think being a part of that community would be a big help.
Yeah.
But I have heard him say too many people have fallen out of the business after 3 to 4 years because they just didn't know how to do this, or they just gave up on that. They were highly talented. They should be making more money, but they just didn't know how to do the marketing, how to do the self this and that.
Yeah.
And I believe that. And I
Yeah.
also believe there are some that are not superbly talented. They're okay talented that are making a lot of money because they're marketing well and they're doing things well on that side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can
I
go
think
both ways.
maybe even a little related to that. I think a third thing is people who are afraid to do things because they don't know how.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Just
Or-
do it.
Yeah.
Like
Or if I be the first one to say this, or they got, cut in some way or form, like a little scam or something, and they're like, that's me.
Yeah.
Like I got
Yeah,
messed
too
up in
scared.
something, and I'm like, I'm gonna chill
Yeah.
out for a second.
I
Or
can
you have-
understand that.
Or you have life happening behind, you have
Oh, yeah,
to
that
change
too.
gears. You got
Also.
life happening behind you, behind the curtain, outside
True.
the booth, that sort of slows you down.
Yeah.
But I think consistency is key too.
Absolutely.
And knowing that you're passionate about it. If you're passionate about it and you keep doing it, whether you have a full-time job, a part-time job, or you're going at it full time, you train, you treat your space, you keep going, you keep working, you make smart decisions, you figure out what's best for you, because there's no one fit all, right? And
Yeah.
you keep going and you connect with people and you learn and you grow and you expand and you don't give up. If you're
Yeah.
interested and
Exactly.
excited and passionate about it, you don't give up, because this business is so hard. There's been so
It
many
is.
days where
And look,
I'm like, what
there-
the fuck is happening right now? Like
there's five
I'm
of
out.
us. There are 5 of us right here on the screen.
Yeah.
None of us got here the same way. You
Nope.
put
Right.
25 voice actors in a room, none of them are getting there the same way. They're all taking their own path. They're doing their own thing. Some are doing
True.
Fiverr, some are not. Some hate Fiverr, some love
Yeah.
it. Some are, taking all kinds of coaching. I
Right.
do also believe you can overcoach.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think you can get too much in your head. Every time you pick up a script, you think, well, he said do it this way. She said do it that way. And
Right.
like I said, make your own way, make
Mhm.
notes, put an index card up or something that says, I should do this, this, and this on every audition. Get it
Mhm.
down to 3 or 4 bullet points instead of a whole list of all.
Yeah.
You can't do all those things,
Mm-mm.
and my thing is, what's my point of view? That's the first thing I ask myself. That
like
covers
that.
so much.
Yeah.
What's my point of view?
Yeah.
Am I a
Yeah.
third person, first person? Where am I? Who am I? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's
All
great.
the acting coaches are, who am I? Who am I talking to? What am I
Right.
talking about?
Mm.
What do I want them to think?
Yeah.
That's too much. You get too much in your head. Just do point of view and you're done with that.
Yeah.
And then move on to how you're going to connect to it and what card you're going to play.
I like
and,
that.
Right.
and do the freaking thing. Just do the thing. But back to, we all have our different paths. Everybody's going to have a different path. We're all going to have success in our own ways or not have it in certain ways.
Yeah.
You can't worry about everyone else, but what you can do is be in an accountability group, meet
Mhm.
once a week, constantly message each other. The 2 guys I'm in with, I can't tell you the amount of times I've got this audition. Do you guys have it? No, we don't have it. Let's jump on a Zoom call. I need your help.
Mhm.
I want them to hear me audition and tell me what am I doing wrong, because they have enough experience. They can tell me,
Yeah.
no, you're too Southern. I can hear it. And there's times they go, dude, I heard nothing. There's nothing in there Southern. Send
Yeah.
it. Perfect. And I may not book it, but I got the feedback that I sent as good of an audition as I could have sent.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's all we can do.
That's
Use your
interesting.
accountability partners. Please get those people in your life and lean on them and use them. It helps.
Yeah. We definitely all can identify with
Relate
that
to that, yeah.
very much,
Yeah,
very
definitely.
much, very much. I'm so excited that you were here today. And I feel like, is there like I feel like you left us one good gem right there. So I'm not going to ask you to give us like one more, final thought, but I'm just curious about, how did you find your genres? Did they just kind of like pop out at you, or did they fall in your lap? And you said you whittled it down to 3. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm kind of
it
getting there
came-
myself right now. So
A lot of it came through coaching. So my first coach was Mike Hathcote. He's the person that said, you are the blue collar voice of choice.
mm,
He handed me my brand and I ran with it from there. From there, it went into the automotive thing because
Mhm.
of trucks. And I take that even further to truck accessories, to, like John Deere Gators and anything farm, rural trucks,
Jeez, yeah.
automotive, it all ties together. And then the last part, believe it or not, is a lot of character stuff.
Mhm.
Wow.
Video
See
game
that.
stuff. I book probably as much of that kind of stuff, and it's not stuff anybody would have heard of, but I did book the Doc Ock role for Marvel's Snap card game,
Ooh,
Oh,
which is
cool.
kind of weird.
See, I've
Cool.
heard of
very
that.
cool.
You know, yeah, that's one you might have heard of. But I book a lot of character stuff that a lot of people would probably be surprised, but I don't advertise it or talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
But I think your coaches will help you get into that. And
Mhm.
here's another thing. Look at the last 20 things you booked. What are they? What are you
Mm.
booking?
Mm.
So if I'm booking, 18 of that's commercial, well, that's heck, what do you need to be marketing? You need to be hitting
Mhm.
production houses and going after that, and I think that's a big part. I'm disappointed sometimes in automotive. I feel like I should be booking a lot more there.
Yeah.
But next week on the podcast, I'm talking to a guy that has booked over 500 automotive spots.
Wow.
And we're going to find
Wow.
out how and why.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'll
What's
be
going on?
listening.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Take a look at your last however many auditions that you did and figure out where you fall in there
Yeah,
in that
even your
category. That's
short list.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you
Mm.
shortlisting?
Shortlisted,
And
yeah.
when I look at shortlist,
That's even
it's
better.
usually things that are uncommon. It's not ever, like I said, the cloud thing or the computer stuff or technical stuff.
Yeah.
I did get shortlisted on a medical, with the disclaimer thing the other day, but my gosh, I practiced and read it and made sure I got the pronunciations right. And it did, and it was one of those, it was fast, and I'm pretty good at the fast stuff, kind of like an auto disclaimer. But I didn't book it, but I felt really good that at least I made headway, that I got a short list.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Short
awesome.
list. I feel like
And
short
on a
list is-
medical one of all things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing that people need to understand too, is that getting shortlisted is awesome. That's the
Yeah.
It
that's
is.
the
Yeah.
cake, and
It
the
is.
booking is the frosting, right?
And I hate when they take them away on voices. You get shortlisted and the next day it's gone.
Cleared.
Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
what?
that
Take
that
away the
is-
joy, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucking the joy right out of our life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But-
I know in my heart it was there.
I know, right?
I
I'm still
nailed it.
counting
I
that
know.
in the
I
number.
nailed it.
Well, okay. So Troy, how can we connect with you? How can any of us get a hold of you if we want to chit chat with you and talk to you a little
Sure.
bit more about stuff? Because I don't know if you guys know, but Troy also does some demos, right? You're starting to do a little bit of demos.
Oh.
Is
Yeah,
that-
I do some
talk about
demo
that?
work. I do samples. A lot of people just want a couple of
Okay.
samples to get
Yeah.
started, and I do that.
Mhm.
My production level is I'm not JMC, but it's pretty darn close. I'll argue that. It's TroyHoldenVoices.com. Everything pretty much ties to the website. You can find me on TikTok giving all kinds of stupid VO advice. You can find me on, Facebook through the VO Life group. And then the podcast is, it's another VO podcast and the VO Life / Voiceover Ladder podcast. On
Right.
Apple, you have to kind of search it by both.
And if we-
125 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we
Yeah.
email you, you have a PDF that you like to share, correct? Are we
Yeah,
allowed
I've
to
got
talk about that?
PDFs. I got several PDFs, like how to get started in the voiceover business. How to, when I do the workshops, I give people a really nice PDF of how to get into your authentic self,
Mhm.
things like that. I've got some different stuff, and the free ones, if you email me, I'll send you all the free ones. And
Yeah,
I
that's
do
cool.
15-minute free consults. If somebody just wants to ask questions for 15 minutes, that's absolutely free. And then if you think, well, that's not long enough, I need longer, I do 30-minute and 1 hour paid, and they're very reasonable. And I'll give you a ton of advice in 30 minutes.
You're great to work with. I
That's
worked
awesome.
with
Well,
Troy.
thanks.
Just so you know, I did some samples for automotive with Troy, and it was he goes above and beyond for you. And it's great to work with someone who's in the field, currently working, doing the thing, and he might be a little bit ahead of us, but he knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
and it's
love
good to
working
support.
with people, love helping people, and love watching people grow. It's fun to watch the process, when we get on a Zoom call and I'm trying to get you into a certain read, and I play it back and I'm like, it's close. And then we call back and do it again, and I just can't do that. Yes, you can. I
Yeah.
know you can. I hear it, and here's what I want you to try, and we'll go off the deep end. I do things sometimes where people are reading their lines, and I'll ask questions in between the lines to make them answer me.
Yeah.
That way they give an
Mhm.
authentic answer,
That's good.
and then we can cut all that out. We
Yeah.
can edit that down and make your
Right.
sample fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
fun.
Quick
Angela,
question, just
yeah.
random. So, in your professional opinion, how long should somebody in voiceover wait to refresh their demos? Because I think I'm coming up on 2 years now, and it's
2 years, you may be close.
Yeah.
It depends. You may only need to refresh 1 or 2 spots.
Okay.
I think that depends on who's going to listen to it and who's going to advise you. I think if you have got the authentic real read in there and it's really good, and your other stuff shows a lot of variation. And my belief in a demo is it needs to change gears. I
Right.
mean, I hear this money spot and it's this conversational thing, and I want that second spot. I want to go like, is that the same freaking
Right.
person?
Flip it.
Who
You should
is
hear
that?
Lloyd's. You should hear
You know?
Lloyd's
Yeah.
demo.
Oh,
It's
my.
Yeah,
freaking
Lloyd's
all
is
over the
amazing.
place.
Yeah.
It's all
That's the
over.
one. And I love that because I think these casting directors, talent agents, whoever, they're not going to listen very long unless, you know, and I like my first spot to be really short because they're not going to listen long. I
That's
want it to
that,
be
right.
money. I
Mhm.
want them to hear money, but I want to come out of that spot in about 8 to 10 seconds. I want to be done with it. And I want to hit that second one. And like mine, when I redid it, and I'm not sure which one I got posted right now, it goes from this verbo read to, you know, sitting in the treetops, what a beautiful house, blah, blah. And then it goes into this kid like Maximilian, he's running down the aisle with a mop bucket on his head. And you're like, what the crap is that? You know?
Love it. I love
And
it.
then
Yeah.
you jump, and then it goes into growly, you know, Dodge Ram, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, holy crap, that's
all over,
three
yeah.
totally different voices.
Yeah.
And if you're not that versatile, you know, people, well, I'm not that versatile. I can't do all that. Sure, you can. You can pitch up, you can pitch down, you can do, you know, crazy stuff. So, yeah, you may have 5 great spots, and you may, you know, say, well, one of them, maybe it's time to kick it out and get a fresher something on there. Because if it's
Yeah.
not getting activity, sometimes it's time to make a change or two.
Yeah,
Cool.
I like
Cool.
that. I
Thank
like
you.
that's a
Thank you
really
for
good
that.
answer. Yeah. And I think too to what you're talking about, Lloyd's demo is that like he
I
took
want
his
Lloyd's
time.
demo. I
I
want to
know
hear
he
it.
took his
Yeah,
time.
it's
He took
amazing.
his
Yeah.
time training, and even though he
Mhm.
set goals and even, you know, and he took his time, and I think like he, you know, that when you take your time and you train and you do the things and you wait and you're patient, you're
Yep.
going to get the good stuff,
You
right?
will.
So, yeah.
You will. It'll be better. And people ask me all the time, should I get a professional demo? And I used to tell people, not till this, and whatever. And yeah, it'll make a huge difference, but wait. And I got my professional demo in April of this year. Has it changed my life? No. But I was further along than a lot of people who would have maybe went and got a professional demo earlier. Had I had gotten a JMC Chuck Duran demo a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
it may have impacted me more.
Yeah.
But I became a student of demos, and I tried very hard not to copy, but to replicate the sound. What kind of music are they using? What kind of, how much background extra stuff, you know, how about outside voices? Are they plugging in, you know, a female sometimes on a male's demo, you know, where she's asking a question or answering? And I said, it needs to be real. It's got to sound like what's on TV or radio, or they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
So as I began to replicate that stuff, my demo got good enough where when I sent it to Uncle Roy and said, hey, I was thinking about changing out a couple of spots. What do you think? And he goes, who did this? I said, I did. He sent back, bullshit. I said, yes, I did. And he said, I wouldn't change a spot. And
That's awesome.
and that
Awesome.
and of course, where am I in that time? I'd already done my pro demo. And I'm not saying mine is as good as what JMC did. I'm just saying that sometimes we don't have to have the $2,000 one yet. We can probably take something a little less and do a lot better with it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's important to, you know, for some people,
To
especially for
invest.
those people, I would like to say, you know, those people who you have seen those people on TikTok saying, oh, I can teach you how to be a voiceover artist. All you have to do is get a mic and get a computer and you're there. Like they don't
Yeah.
realize that you need a
Yeah.
demo to kind of show off what you can do.
Yes.
You know, so like
you
I think
do.
it is important to an extent, maybe not a pro, like you said,
Right.
but if you have a couple of little takes of what you can sound like, whether it's character or if it's,
Yeah.
you know, a professional read or something like that, that's
And,
completely helpful.
I go back and listen to my very first demo sometime. And of course, I copied a Burger King commercial of this commercial, of that commercial, word for word. But the production wasn't that bad. And I put that out on Fiverr and Upwork and got a boatload of work.
Amazing.
You know, so, and it depends. Where are you trying to get the work? If you are sending to agents, you probably need a professional demo.
Right.
Yeah.
You
right,
probably
right.
do.
Yeah.
But if you're just putting samples on voices.com, voice123, Fiverr, whatever, you may not need a full blown professional demo.
But you
know,
might
can
need
do
to
some
know how to
samples and
produce it,
spots.
though. You might
Yeah,
need to know how to
you
produce
do.
it.
You
Yeah.
do.
All goes
Yeah,
back to
don't-
the training.
Don't read in a Yeti at your kitchen table. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
All goes back
No.
to the training. You know, you need
Yeah.
a little bit of training to get going on all of this stuff. You
You
can't
do.
just
Absolutely.
dive
do.
in, even though it's, many people want to. You need a little something.
Absolutely.
Yep.
On a related note, keeping people like, because it's a marketing tool, right? A lot of people will think about with, businesses like, oh, you have like your elevator pitch, blah, 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 blah. Like, I've gotten into the habit of making sure that regardless of the situation I am in, I have access to my demo in 30 seconds.
I seen
Yeah.
So
that.
like you asked for my demo and it's in the
You
chat.
just shared it.
Yes,
If
you
we were
just shared
out
it.
talking, I know where to find it on my phone.
Right.
Nice.
Right.
Having that ready, so like, oh yeah, they're together,
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
serious.
Absolutely. I believe in a lot of people say, I'm not answering people on the weekend. I'm not this and that. And it's after 5 o'clock. Bull crap. This is voiceover. I mean, if somebody sends me a message at night, I'm all over it. Even those crappy Fiverr buyers that are overseas that message me at 9 o'clock at night, they're going to get a reply immediately. They're going to get a demo. They're going to get a sample of whatever they need.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump through hoops to make clients happy. That's my job.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how I
if
get
you-
repeat. That's how I get the repeat work. That's how I get the
Absolutely.
new work. They're asking
Yeah.
for a quote. A guy asked me for a quote on an app yesterday, 3,000 words, and we really like your voice and our budget's this. And I said, I can't do it for that. I can do it for this, but I will give you 3 variations of every line. It's
wow.
3,000 words. I'm going to give you 9,000 words.
Right.
You're not going to need revisions because I'm going to give you enough to work with. You shouldn't have to have them.
Yeah.
And he'll probably
good
come
point.
back and buy. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And always in being available. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
for people who have like
Yeah.
full-time jobs, it's kind of
Yeah.
difficult, but
Yeah.
like
It is.
there's certain like if you're in a situation where it's like a weekend or a holiday and somebody's reaching out and they need you, like, hey, you can charge them more. There was one time I'm not going to
Absolutely.
say who, I was in a class with someone and somebody emailed them for a job and they were a guest coach for this class and like, okay, I gotta go because they're about to pay me an extra $1,000 for this.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey,
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
look,
Right.
Take it and run.
that's rent money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
But it does remind me of, because Joss had sent out one of your podcasts so that we can kind of get familiar with you. And in the one that she sent, you were talking about, when you're doing stuff like this, you are the entrepreneur. You're wearing every single hat, whether it is the
Yes.
voiceover actor or the voice actor or the business person or the bookkeeping person. Regardless, even if you're not in the booth as a voice actor, you're still on call for being a bookkeeper.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to be on call for all of those things.
My-
This is your business.
My dad taught me that early on. We had a business that we sold industrial sewing equipment. Back when in the United States, we used to make all our own clothes, believe it or not. And we sold equipment to garment factories. I would go with him. He'd go on a sales call. He would be dressed in his nice pressed jeans and a dress shirt. He would put on a blazer and go upstairs, talk to the plant manager. He'd take that off, take off the dress shirt, put on a polo shirt. He'd go down into the basement and talk to the mechanics who bought the parts.
Interesting.
He learned to speak to people on their level and gain their confidence at their level. So the same with us when we're talking to, a talent agent. We're going to talk a certain way. We're interviewing with an agency. We're going to be, all about our business and we're all this. We get to know a client and our client has an outdoor channel and he's doing this and he's got kids that hunt and fish. We're talking to him down on that everyday level. And we have to treat this business that way. Who am I talking to? How do I address them? Am I A, B, and C? And, always just treat people great. And as always, I've even got a podcast episode. It basically says, just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Right. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
Exactly.
Thank
It's
you.
funny. Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's really funny because in my day job, my boss keeps pointing out to people how like we'll go places and like people know me and like whatever, blah blah blah. I'm just like, I just say hi to people.
Era of
Good.
Las
It's-
Vegas.
It's not that like
You just have to be nice. You just have to be
That's
nice
it.
and kind and
nice.
listen and set your ego aside because we're all here to do some great things and have fun and have a good time and get to know each other and connect, right?
For
With
sure.
people and scripts. So thank you, Troy, for coming on. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
Thank you
saying
very
yes.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for having me.